So, taking us one step further, public safety and security is not one size fits all. We can't just protect public spaces with people. We can't just protect it with defensive architecture or with technical solutions. It has to be a mixture of all of them. So the first quarter today, we've set the scene as to what the problems are, and with a kind of an idea of round London Bridge as to how that is engaged and how they combat it. But technology is one of those things that we must rely on, and it must be collaborative, and it must help support, because we know that technology alone will not necessarily stop or capture crime. It may deter and detect, definitely, but these are all integrated, and we need technology as much as we need people and defensive architecture. So I'm going to invite Jon Squires, the head of tech partnerships and enterprise solutions at Synectics, to come and tell you about how technology works with us. Jon.
Right, good morning everyone. Firstly, thank you very much to the ASC for inviting us to come and present. I think the topic that I've got here today is one that I'm very passionate about, and thank you to Nick as well for sort of setting me up really well in terms of outlining the kind of really complex environments that we have to protect and monitor. And so really what I'd like to discuss today are a few sort of topics, and really again just to get everyone thinking about not so much a blueprint for how a security system should be implemented, that unified data and communications layer, but just how it can help, and some considerations along the way for how we might need to prioritize what we're looking at. So I've got a bit of an agenda there, and I'll jump straight into where we are today. So I think it's very, very clear from the speakers that we've already had that these environments that we're trying to manage from a control room perspective in particular can be very, very complex. Lots of professionals doing lots of different things in the event of a major event around a stadium, number of stadiums, 2 stadiums and a warship potentially, and how that information flows in and then back out of a control room environment. So everyone needs to know what their role is, what they need to do next, and the actions that are going to come out, the decisions that are being made. So with that, the current kind of challenges that you might face, invariably with any kind of implementation and environment that you're looking at putting these kind of solutions together and creating a collaborative environment, there are challenges around existing technologies, budgets, and so on. And so really the challenge there is to not assume that you can start with a blank canvas, but work with what you already have in place and start to build up that capability of sharing information around to the relevant parties. So why does it matter? I think we've already mentioned that the UK Terrorism Act is now royal assented, so we have a document there and an act that really outlines how premises need to prepare and plan adequately for major events and for major incidents as well. And with that, there's a huge underlying area of traditional terrorism in terms of how a venue could be attacked. And to give that some kind of perspective, last year 248 terror-related offences were captured and people were arrested for that. So there's a constant undergoing effort to prevent those kind of attacks. But it's not just that traditional terrorism. There's also bladed weapons as well. Knife crime is on the rise with 55,000 incidents of it in the UK alone last year. And this can be driven by drug-related crime, by cross-border crime, and so on. And not forgetting, of course, a more recent sort of eventuality is the cyber threat as well, and how that can play into a community, businesses, and protected premises. And in particular, more recently, the Marks and Spencer's example where they have had what is believed to be a ransomware attack. And because they have a community, an ecosystem of connected systems, they've got a circular problem in terms of how they deal with that. They bring back one system, another system goes down or takes that new system back down again. So very complicated, and it's worth spending a little bit of time thinking about cybersecurity as well. So there's a couple of different directives and acts that are being brought into play and brought to fruition. So the NIS2 directive is a European directive, closely aligned to our own UK Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill, but it's more broad than the original NIS directive. And what it has within that is a lot of guidance around how businesses should consider cybersecurity and protect themselves against it, best practice. But it also impacts other businesses outside of the EU as well. So it mandates that any businesses that do business within the EU must also pay attention and adhere to those directives there. So again, bringing in a UK cybersecurity resilience bill will certainly aid UK businesses in being compliant with that. And then finally, there's a European Cyber Resilience Act as well, and that's more focused towards the software suppliers and manufacturers of systems, and it talks about how to build in cyber security and resilience right from the very design and development stages of a software platform, right the way through to the end of life and that whole entire life cycle of that solution. So lots and lots of guidance and capability there to understand and best protect from every aspect of putting these solutions together. And that's really important because as soon as you start to join systems together, they start communicating, sharing data, you're increasing the vulnerability there in terms of how that system can then have a virus or a vulnerability exploited and propagated throughout an entire ecosystem of platforms. I've also got there a couple of ways in which these systems can be tested and you can best protect yourself against these types of threats and attacks. And they do, sort of vary widely from, very basics, in terms of ensuring that software is up to date, firmware is up to date. These are all vulnerabilities where, even the laziest threat actor can take a release notes of a piece of software, understand what was fixed, and then go find solutions and systems that don't have those areas fixed and exploit them. There's lots of ways in which you can protect data at rest and in flight, so ensuring that video data, for example, right from the camera is secure, and then all the way back through to the streaming through the network, it's encrypted, and then back at rest wherever it is stored, again, is protected and encrypted. The reality is there's lots and lots of capabilities around how to protect data, the systems, and the overall access that potentially can cause a weakness. But it does create additional cost and time, but it's incredibly important when you start to look at bringing systems together. So other technical considerations include, and we've already mentioned it, that network infrastructure. When you've got video streaming over various networks, you're collaborating, and sharing video is one of the core examples of how great things start to happen when you start to broaden your monitoring remit and capability across different regions. But obviously there's an impact to the network that supports that streaming. Along with that, obviously where you've got storage and server processing capability, the key there is that you must be able to have that capability as and when you need it to interrogate the data, to search that video footage, and have that capability to store further footage that's coming in from other systems. It's not all bad news, though, in terms of the extra onerous activities that may be performed on a system when you start to bring them together. There are technologies out there, such as H.265 AV1 encoding for video, that allows you to remove some of that overhead and burden on the systems by efficiently encoding those cameras as you bring them back in. Using open standards for integrations is another great way of starting to really drive the benefits of collaboration through a system perspective. These open standards allow you to talk on a common wavelength, if you like, and it does make that ability to then start communicating securely and safely that much quicker when you start to look at the systems you've got available to bring together. Once you've brought those information data sets in and you start to process higher levels of information, the burden goes up on the control room then to be able to act on those and monitor them efficiently. So having a system in place that brings all of that to a single pane of glass and then allows you to support the operator with rules and alerts and workflows that help them understand what the standard operating procedure is next in the event of this particular data input. That really helps create some real efficiencies and helps the operator understand that greater, wider set of data and information that they're receiving. So how do integrated technologies actually improve collaboration? What does it look like for an operator, for a control room, for a supervisor, and then indeed for individuals out in the field and beyond? And really, in terms of truly interconnected systems, it's a fantastic opportunity to start sharing key information, and that could be right at real time, and it could be post-event, or even as kind of data insights and for future planning activities as well. ONVIF and DVMP, those types of standard protocols can help massively in this realm. Both of them have the capability to securely allow access to video and to data that accompanies the video. And that really allows you to reap the benefit of that standard approach that's been worked upon and refined and made very comprehensive. Technologies like computer vision, AI, can be of benefit. They can help cut out and reduce noise. So from a technology perspective, that aids collaboration in being able to really sort of highlight and surface the key information that is prominent at that point in time. But then also choosing a security management platform that allows you to openly connect all of these systems in a flexible way is really a benefit, not just for the systems you have at that particular point in time, but then also going forward as challenges evolve and the remit and the scope of the solution that you're providing may increase in terms of what it's doing. So, under the kind of main banners there that we've got, unifying a system together, bringing all of that information together, it has several benefits. Firstly, monitoring. You're no longer just monitoring a set of inputs and cameras and sensors within your immediate network and region, but you're also then starting to branch out cross borders, across different sectors. And we've already talked about sort of the grey areas at the edge of a solution, or a community, how best that's managed. When you start to broaden your monitoring capability, then you're moving past those sort of grey areas. As we've already said, analytics can help in surfacing all of the key information in that broader monitoring scope, and that includes, sort of understanding loitering behaviour, wrong direction, sort of unusual activities that might indicate something is amiss. Then you've got the capability of location, and with sort of mapping layers, data information that's overlaid into a mapping environment, you're really giving the operator the chance to understand their environment that they're operating within. And bearing in mind this community, this area of monitoring could be quite large. So familiarity with sort of particular parts of a city might be there for the operator, but on a wider scale they need context. They need to have an understanding of other cameras around that area, other assets and users with mobile devices that are part of the security teams, radio location as well within businesses and local shops. So again, having that mapping environment helps create that collaboration with those different parties. In terms of coordination, again, in that live coordination scenario where you're sharing information cross borders within different boroughs and regions, within even different police departments, as we've already heard about. Coordination is key, and sharing information in a controlled way that is well defined and permitted is a real benefit when you start to collaborate and join systems together. And that also then culminates in ultimately sharing evidence. So once an event has taken place, you may then want to share that evidence, and that might go more broadly with police forces, through into a case for the CPS, for example, to prosecute with. And again, having that video information, having the accompanying information around how the event unfolded, the decisions that were taken, the audit trail of those decisions, and the standard operating procedures that were followed, can all be packed together and offered as an evidence pack. And then finally, right at the very back end of the system, really, is the reporting capabilities. And again, the more information you pull into a collaborative system, the more you can report on, the more you can show insights, trends, and that helps with demonstrating, the value that a control room operation brings, but also helps you improve the processes that you've put in place as you go. So we mentioned AI as a technology, and we're going to take a bit more of a look at the technologies that can complement and support a collaborative effort across many different professionals and departments. And AI is certainly something that can help in a couple of different ways as it's implemented. So the idea and the aim behind the use of AI, certainly with computer vision, which is that analysis of video as it is being streamed back into the control room, and the understanding of key identifiers that you want to trigger upon, is really where AI shines. It's fantastic at understanding detections, patterns, trends that operators might not see if they're just staring at video for long periods of time. Observational fatigue will cut in very, very quickly, and it's just not feasible to look at hundreds or even thousands of cameras and spot those key telltale signs that something may be about to happen. So I've got a few different examples of how AI can be used. The first one really being in that real-time risk and crime detection scenario. And what we're talking about here is how AI can sit watching key cameras, understanding the scene as it unfolds frame by frame, and then really evaluating it for key behaviors and scenarios that may crop up. One in particular, as an example, might be crowd detection. Within a stadium environment, you have gated access, transport, rail network, buses as well, of course. You may have gated barrier entry and egress. And at that point, the AI models can sit there and evaluate the crowds building or reducing as footfall goes through that area. And again, in a scenario where perhaps suddenly that crowd starts to expand, that may be a fault through the gating system has suddenly locked up, or it might be that there's a crowd forming because there's some kind of activity that's occurring. And again, as an operator, could be very difficult to spot that just out the corner of your eye. So being able to have a solution that sits in place and contributes to the overall monitoring capability of the control room by flagging a particular incident like that, you stand a much greater chance of being able to get on top of it, again, following standard operating procedures as to whatever they may be. One example could be that you let those gates open freely and allow that crowd to disperse and avoid crushing events and further issues in that area. Another good example of using technologies and AI in particular here is around forensic searching. So that is the process of looking back through recorded information, video data, and understanding and hoping to very quickly move the investigation that you're looking at right up to the point in real time as to what's happening in the live scenario. Missing persons, person of suspicion, those kind of things, persons of interest, are really that kind of sweet spot for this capability. So, for example, in a hospital, for example, if you have a patient going missing, could be a child, could be an elderly person, you want to be able to, as quickly as possible, understand where they last were seen with the camera systems, so that you can reduce your search footprint as quickly as possible and ultimately find that person. So with AI being able to detect key attributes of individuals, so what color jacket they were wearing, whether they had a backpack, shorts or trousers, whatever it might be, and the colors of those garments, you're very quickly able to enter that kind of information in and narrow and flag up where that person was last seen. So some interesting capabilities there for sure. And then finally, looking at the information from an analysis point of view, looking at the trends and the data as an overall data set, you may be able to then start to see trends and patterns and pinch points within the security operation within a stadium, for example, whereby you can improve how you deal with certain situations, whether it be gate systems failing and not permitting individuals through, or evacuation planning and trying to understand the best way to evacuate a large arena in a timely manner and of course in a safe manner. So all of those capabilities are certainly something that AI can assist with. May not always be the correct solution, but definitely something that can be deployed if need be. Next type of technology that can often be useful when we're talking about collaborative systems and bringing useful information and data together is facial recognition. The UK has a comprehensive legal framework that can guide you around how live facial recognition can be deployed, and the College of Policing has guidance around it as well, of course. But there are some obvious benefits that can be used here, and certainly, time to detection of individuals, as whether they're known or unknown, but in particular if they're known, suspects or even people who are missing individuals, it can be very, very beneficial to have facial recognition working on key cameras around your camera estate. The other benefit of this type of technology is it does free up resource. And again, that's similar to the examples shown previously with AI. All the while that the facial recognition system is looking for the face and that individual, it means that operators can be looking at other information that's coming in, perhaps about the same incident or working on other scenarios as well that they find themselves in. So again, a great time saver, good for saving and maximizing the use of resource within a control room. And it reduces the risk of missing key information as well. Again, it's not relying upon operators scanning hundreds of cameras. It's using technology to deliver that insight and surface the results. We've mentioned dynamic mapping and how it can deliver a 360-degree awareness of the situation that the control room is managing. And that can be used to help also within the reporting and the understanding of how effective a solution is, but also indicate hotspots of activity as well. So as mentioned earlier, sort of trying to avoid areas that have high crime rates and best navigate around those areas. The information that's collected and can be presented with dynamic mapping can really highlight that and be used as evidence as to how to navigate and provide tourism with safer paths through hotspots. With data layers as well, you can then present information that might be best consumed in a very visual way on maps, and that can be within that live environment as well. So depending on what you're managing, what scenario that you're looking at as an operator, you may choose to turn on and off different layers of information as well. So you're not overcrowded, again, trying to reduce that level of noise that an operator may be exposed to if all of that information was coming and being presented on a map at once. Remote access is a really powerful tool. So, so far we've spoken a lot about bringing information into a control room. That's only half the story. There is also the opportunity to share information beyond the control room as well, in a controlled and restricted manner, of course, that is secure, but being able to give a very lightweight way of accessing key information in an authorized and verified way is a huge capability that can be utilized and really brings value to collaborating, because you're then being able to share out information that might not otherwise got out into the field, certainly not in a real-time manner that's going to help decision-making capabilities and ensure that those insights are considered when an event or an incident is unfolding. Camera sharing is another capability that is very, very powerful, and often one of the first steps where within communities, within different surveillance districts, you start to see activity in terms of bringing systems together. Being able to use open protocols, as we mentioned, DVMP, as one of those digital video network protocols that allows you to communicate between disparate systems of different manufacturers. So we're not just talking about one supplier's system, but various different systems. This really allows you to maximize how a set of control rooms might organize themselves with an event that's wider scale than just in their district. And then again, similar to the sort of capabilities of monitoring, right the way through to how you share evidence. The last piece of the puzzle for that entire evidence chain might be the ability to share evidence up into a cloud environment, so that then it can be in a very controlled manner shared down to other individuals, either at the time of the incident or post-incident and as part of an onward investigation. But being able to do that, having a complete audit trail of that capability and who's seen what video footage when and indeed for how long, again, allows that frictionless ability to share information where it's required. And again, with the technologies that underline it, two-factor authentication, evidence certificates that ensure that the video is of original authenticity, it's not been tampered with, really does help create an environment where sharing is welcomed and people want to see this information come through. And finally, mobile applications. So mobile apps being able to not only stream information directly from the control room and within the field, in that arena, around the park or the warship, for example, you've got a live feed of information coming to you right into the palm of your hand, massively supporting that live decision-making capability. But also then on the flip side, pushing information back into the control room from that mobile device, being able to take snapshots, input further information, and really start to collaborate with the control room right from that mobile device really helps improve the quality of information that's being shared and also received, and that can only support more insightful decision-making capabilities, either in that heat of the moment, in that major incident, or over an extended period of time with a major event, that kind of thing. And as we mentioned and touched on briefly, the capability and the collaboration that's possible is made all the more capable and realistic when you have the capability to automate a lot of the responses that might have to be made on the back of an alert coming into the system or an event taking place. So again, having a system that can support you with the types of information that you would need to hand as and when these events occur is really, really powerful. And automating the responses out of that as well can be equally as useful. So lots of security considerations around how that might play out in terms of automating decisions to turn on emergency lighting, alert large crowds via audio systems with recorded messages, and indeed mass notification systems as well can be triggered and brought into play as well. So again, that capability really does allow the control rooms, certainly with the protect duty legislation to handle a greater level of traffic that comes into the control room. And a very important aspect, protecting privacy. And I guess, something that may or may not be sort of fairly well known is that the technologies such as AI that people are concerned about in terms of privacy and how they can capture people's faces and then tag you all the way back to when you entered that area can also be used to maintain their privacy as well and provide levels of privacy that, through the fact that we can redact faces and entire individuals, key information like registration plates and so on. When we are sharing that information on a broader scale, that key data that should remain protected can still be protected, and it's the technology underlying within these systems that allows you to do that. Other types of capability include the sort of video blackouts and privacy masking, and they're different capabilities that allow you to ensure that whatever kind of situation arises within the control room, you've got the capability to keep it as confined and as restricted as need be in order for that operation to maintain an efficient cadence and keep moving forward. So again, permissions-based, time-limited access is also part of that in how information can be shared, but then the access can be removed based upon the fact that it's no longer valid to see that it's, the incident has moved on and now that needs to be cleared away nicely. So again, lots of capabilities to be considered within a collaborative solution. So what I'd like to do now, excuse me, is talk a little bit about a case study where some of this technology has been deployed and the scenarios around how it was deployed and what it takes really to create a collaborative solution and have it be successful. So we've got here the 2022 Commonwealth Games. A bit of a backstory to this was that it was originally meant to be in Durban in South Africa. They had an 8-year timeline to prepare for this event, and with just 3.5 years to go, the Commonwealth Committee decided that they weren't ready and it needed to be moved to Birmingham. So within 3.5 years, Birmingham were able to put on a phenomenal Commonwealth Games that was arguably an incredibly safe environment with just 108 games-related crimes that took place over those 12 days. So really a phenomenal achievement with West Midlands Police, Birmingham and the West Midlands Combined Authority. And with a few other stats up there, sort of 2.8 million games-related visitors to Birmingham and the surrounding area. It was a huge undertaking to orchestrate that. And in part, and assisted by the system that they implemented over those 3.5 years, they were able to manage safely the access to the games, the individuals while they were in those areas where the games were taking place, and then the movement of that population back out to their respective locations around the country. Part of how they managed that, and a decision that was taken at some point, was that they decided, along with the game tickets that were being sold, they would also provide transport, public transport tickets as well, so encouraging spectators to use the public transport system. And that's where really some of the key sort of stats around just how many buses were used, how many of the tram system was used, and the rail system, of course, as well. And what that led to was this drive to need to take each one of those stakeholders and get them to work together to provide this overall collaborative solution. So having a collaborative system was a small part of that, of course, and something that fundamentally enabled the various stakeholders to work together. But with that decision that they made to use public transport, they immediately started to create a system that was focused around collaboration in terms of the transport, the areas and regions, the stations within those areas of the Commonwealth Games, and then ultimately into the stadiums and the venues that they were observing the games from. So some of the kind of technologies that were used within that environment, basic server-to-server communication, which essentially meant that there were two systems and they were connected through the IT networks, and they were allowed to communicate under controlled circumstances and share information like camera information, video streams themselves, and other incident management sort of capabilities as well in terms of what was happening in one area versus another. And that's really important because where they were having issues with transport, perhaps there was a massive influx of individuals onto the transport network. They knew very shortly they would have to manage that within the games area where the stadiums were. And so having those systems connected allowed that frictionless communication about what was occurring. And they could make decisions in real time about how best to mitigate those risks. DVMP, as we've already mentioned, as an open protocol, allowed other systems to equally communicate to that main head-end system, and then direct integration to systems as well, camera analytics and so on, and other VMS systems was also a big part of that. Then when we talk about how the police interacted with the system, web portals and cloud evidence sharing was a massive component of how they were included